Streaming now on IWTV. Action Wrestling. Check our schedule for all upcoming Action Wrestling events scheduled to stream live on IWTV. Watch over 90 Action Wrestling shows on demand anytime, featuring AC Mack, Adam Priest, Alex Kane, Cruel, and more.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of Pro Wrestling Ponderings. And after last week's episode with Brad Garoon and Jake Ziegler, I sat over this past weekend and pondered, how can we follow up last week? How can we follow having Brad and Jake on the show? And then Sunday night, I get a text message from Mr. 1 Kevin Ford while I'm playing a game of poker informing me that Bryan Danielson has left Ring of Honor and will be signing with WWE at the end of September. And then it immediately became clear that our podcast will take on a little bit of a different tone this week. A lot of the fun and games that you're used to are not going to be on this podcast. Unfortunately, we're going to be discussing a whole lot about Ring of Honor, Bryan Danielson, WWE, and what all of this means for the rest of 2009 and the future of both companies. To do this, I have found two people to discuss. Of course, Kevin Ford is one of them. He is my trusty sidekick and co-host. Kevin, how are you doing tonight?
Well, I just watched a pretty terrible Raw, so I'm not doing the best, but I guess I'm okay.
Yeah, Raw was pretty much no buys. And the other person is, of course, the author of the Column of Honor from 411mania.com. He has a special edition of the Column of Honor today. Highly recommend that everyone checks it out. There were a couple of things that he mentioned that actually got me pondering. Pun very much intended there. Ari Berenstein, how are you doing tonight?
Happy birthday, Vince McMahon. I love you.
I guess Ari's a little drunk then. All right.
Well, come on. He's the man responsible for signing, American Dragon Bryan Danielson. It's gotta, and it's his birthday today, so come on.
Do you think Bryan Danielson watched Raw tonight and immediately regretted his decision?
I think he is maybe hoping that he gets to do some John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt stuff, maybe with Carlito.
I think he's hoping that people take up a collection to go to the Peace Corps.
Carlito is a poor substitute for Kenny Omega.
Come on, they both kind of have the same hair.
And that's where the similarities end.
All right. All right, guys. As we all know, unless you've been living under a rock, Bryan Danielson will be heading to WWE after the September 26th Ring of Honor show. He will be fulfilling all of his indie commitments before he leaves, and then he is going down to Florida to do God knows what. Obviously, Ari, we've heard kind of what you had to say in your Column of Honor, and everyone should definitely check that out. But Kevin, I want to kind of get your reaction first.
Well, my reaction upon reading was kind of a holy shit, and I'm actually very happy that Danielson's coming to WWE. It's something that I've wanted for a really long time because, as someone who I've pretty much watched Ring of Honor for a really long time now, even used to write about it. At this point in Ring of Honor stage, Danielson's pretty much done everything he can. He could probably win the tag titles or win the world title again, but I really don't know what that would do for him. I think it would benefit the company more than it would the person. And I think at this point in Bryan Danielson's career, it was either kind of time to move on, just drop out of the wrestling business for good and maybe train or do something, or he just has to kind of, ride out Ring of Honor till the day they die and just be happy with being stagnant and kind of do his indie dates and and stuff like that, and I guess just deal with that. And I think out of all those, probably the most appealing to him would be to just go to WWE. I know that he wanted to do the Peace Corps for a while, but I have a feeling that for him dropping out of the Peace Corps to finish school with no income whatsoever or what is probably not a viable option for him. So really WWE was the most realistic out of all those, and I'm happy that he's there. I am, of course, wondering just what the hell Ring of Honor will be without him. I see the writing on the wall for Ring of Honor and their impending doom. And I think Bryan Danielson is a much larger nail in the coffin than we all may have expected it to be, because I think we all know that's going to happen. I think you kind of said it best, Jerome, when you said that now they don't really have their body, mind, or soul anymore. So, Samoa Joe, Gabe Sapolsky, and Bryan Danielson kind of being gone. So it'll be interesting, but I know me and Ari will both be there in New York City to send off Mr. Danielson. I'm pretty happy about that, and I'm excited to see what happens with him in WWE and whenever he decides to debut there, or whenever they decide he'll debut there.
All right, Ari, anything to add to what you said in the Column of Honor, or any other thoughts that have kind of come to you in the last few hours? Obviously, you've seen Raw. Kind of anything that you want to expand upon?
Well, so wait, Samoa Joe, is he the body or the mind?
Samoa Joe is the heart, Gabe Sapolsky is the brains, Bryan Danielson is the soul.
What was CM Punk?
CM Punk was...
The voice.
The voice. Very good.
So we've basically got a body without a heart, a brain, a soul, and a voice. Well, I mean, I don't know. That bad just yet. I mean, I would say that the loss of Bryan Danielson right now is, it's a huge blow to Ring of Honor. Is it the death blow? Too early to say, but I mean, you'd have to be pretty foolish to think that this isn't going to impact them negatively in both in the long run. In the short run, it may actually throw a little bit more attention on Ring of Honor and Pro Wrestling Guerrilla and Dragon Gate USA, because those are the three promotions that Danielson is sort of, having the biggest dates of appearances before he wraps up. And we are going to be there September 26th at the Grand Ballroom for Danielson's last match in Ring of Honor, which is against Austin Aries, and I mean that's going to be a great match. I think. I'm kind of was caught unawares or surprised by the Danielson signing. I mean, we've heard plenty of rumors throughout this year that, the whole contract situation being what it was, that, Nigel McGuinness, for instance, who I thought might have been signed first before Danielson, and Bryan Danielson didn't have contracts, and, basically Ring of Honor is thrown into a situation right now, sort of before 2007, where they don't have they have some of their wrestlers under contract, and then they have others that are working on a per show basis, and that leaves them open to being to the same things that happened to them before 2007, which is Paul One. To TNA rather, Homicide to TNA, CM Punk to WWE. I mean, guys are now, there's the opportunity for them to sign from, the big two. I didn't see if it was going to happen. I thought it would have happened months ago, but, not coincidentally, Ring of Honor moving to Monday nights, I think, really created this, kind of strike back against Ring of Honor. And I mean, it's just starting right now. I mean, it is only Bryan Danielson right now. There are plenty of rumors that it could be others. And if it does end up being just Bryan Danielson, it's going to hurt them because Danielson was an amazing wrestler. And it always brought that must-see match to Ring of Honor. And, as I said in my column, as I wrote my column, he made a good show great, a great show amazing, and a below-average show worth buying. And that is the truth. He was that kind of presence for Ring of Honor and for other independent promotions. And so I think it's a big blow, not just for Ring of Honor, for a lot of these around to not have Danielson as a draw. And that being said, if there is more than one person who's leaving who's been signed, if it's 4 or 5, 6 names who end up being, brought into WWE through contract negotiations, that is, in my opinion, potentially the death blow for Ring of Honor. Right now, this is a really crappy situation for Ring of Honor. It's a great situation for Danielson because he has new opportunities, and I am very proud of him and very happy that he's made that decision to take another step in his wrestling career. But in the end, a lot of this still remains to shake out, and I really am just kind of left, with the aftermath of all this, and just sort of waiting to see how September shakes out and hopefully he has some great matches on the way out.
You know, you mentioned the New York show and the matches they announced there. When I heard Danielson was leaving, I think what they should do is switch out some of the Manhattan Center shows. I think what they should do is do Strong versus Aries for the Ring of Honor title, especially since Strong holds a victory over Aries at the June Manassas show, which should give him a title shot, I believe, and then have do Nigel and Danielson as his final match in Ring of Honor on his way out. What do you think about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I did write a little bit of a message on the ROH message board that I wanted to see McGuinness versus Danielson at the New York show, and this was before news broke about Danielson leaving last match. I think, obviously, booking logically, Strong getting a title shot totally makes sense. He is starting a new program with Nigel McGuinness, which is kind of a cool program, I think, in that Nigel McGuinness is taking the bitterness of the way he's treated by the fans and all the injury, and he's sort of applying that outward to other wrestlers where it doesn't apply. Roderick Strong, he says that the fans don't care about him and what happens to his body, but I mean, in the meantime, the fans this year have really taken back Roderick Strong into their appreciation, and he's really very over this year, and he's done a great job wrestling to sort of warrant that appreciation from the fans. So I think that's a pretty cool angle and a pretty cool program. It really freshens up a McGuinness Strong counter, which we haven't seen too much of in Ring of Honor throughout their time. A couple times, Death Before Dishonor 4, and there was the pay-per-view, one of the pay-per-views last year, and maybe another of the DVDs. But I think that's cool. I actually kind of am intrigued by a few between McGuinness and Strong. And I like Danielson and Aries as a match. I mean, they have a great rivalry going back like 5-6 years, and almost every match, without fail, is a great encounter. I thought their Take No Prisoners match was amazing. Probably the best of all their encounters, and that was on the same show as the McGuinness Tyler Black breakout match that everybody wants to talk about. And I think Danielson versus Aries from that show gets underlooked, I should say, underlooked. And I would love to see them wrestle in the Grand Ballroom. So, it really doesn't matter to me what Danielson has as his last match, as long as the fans support him, and I think it'll be actually a pretty emotional night for the fans, because for many of the fans, some who stick around since the beginning, and those who even just recently gotten into it, and they know what Danielson's about, and he has a strong emotional connection to the fan base there, and I think that that's going to be reciprocated on his last night.
Right, but again, I think I do like the Strong and Nigel feud, but I don't think either of them are booked for the Boston show the night before, so they could just easily move that match to that show, especially since Ring of Honor likes to harken back to kind of recurrences of buildings before, and since, as you said, they did Strong and Nigel in Boston before, they could kind of just do that again there as a rematch. And I really think it's a good idea to go to Nigel and Danielson, one of the classic rivalries, one of the best rivalries in Ring of Honor. And I also don't really like the idea of Danielson having a Ring of Honor title match as his last match. I think that detracts a lot from the match and the credibility of Danielson as an opponent, especially when everyone knows he's going out. And it's way different from CM Punk versus Austin Aries in 2005.
Yeah, but I don't agree with that, Kevin. I'm sorry. Paul London had his last match as a title match against Samoa Joe, and that ended up being a very, very a great match to boot, but just a very poignant moment. And there were some people even back then who were saying, maybe Paul London wins the title that night and vacates the title. And I don't think that that's going to happen with Bryan Danielson, but I think maybe if anything they shouldn't maybe just make it a non-title match instead of making it a title match. But to me it doesn't matter so much. And it's I think they're doing Davey Richards versus Dragon for Boston. Am I right in that? I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
I think that's going to be a great match. It's the first time match in Ring of Honor. They had a match during PWP Los Angeles 2008. That was really, really good. I would rather have a first-time match like Richards versus Dragon, especially since, in my opinion, I think Davey Richards is the closest right now to an heir apparent for the kind of passion and emotion and intensity that Dragon has displayed throughout his history. And I don't know if he could, become the beloved fan favorite that Dragon was over the years, although Dragon has played the heel plenty of times before, and Richards a heel right now, probably maybe a face or a heel in the future, doesn't matter. I think I'd rather, if I was going to Boston, I'd rather see that match than the McGuinness Danielson match, which, of course they've had amazing matches before. The match they had on pay-per-view is probably my top match of the year, because the way I count my matches of the year is from November to November. So that's a great match, but McGuinness is injured. Is still recovering from his injury, has changed his style up. I don't know if it would play the same way, if it would have that kind of intensity, and you could go either way. I mean, it would be a very good match at least, and I think Richards versus Dragon is going to be a very good match as well.
Well, I think the difference between Samoa Joe versus Paul London and Aries and Danielson was that first of all, Paul London was coming off of his incredible match that a lot of people have seen get 5 stars against AJ Styles at Night of the Grudges, which I think is still one of the greatest matches in the company's history. And I think it was Paul London and Samoa Joe's first ever match. Aries and Danielson, we've seen in Ring of Honor no less than 6 times. So I think it'd just be just a little different than before.
But we've seen McGuinness and Danielson multiple times.
But I'm saying as a match to send him off from Ring of Honor for good, I think having McGuinness and Danielson in a non-title bout would be a much more appropriate way than putting him versus Aries in a title match in New York City.
I mean, like I said before, either way, I see your point. There's definitely merit to it. It's kind of out of our hands at this point. I do not think they're going to change the booking at this point. I think they're going to keep the matches as they are.
And then Ring of Honor is going to die because of it. So there.
If you say so, I mean, I think
I understand
I know
that.
you guys have been completely disillusioned by I know Jerome definitely has some very strong opinions on that. And I definitely, I partially agree. I think Ring of Honor has definitely changed, and in some ways not for the better. But I think, to ignore the quality matches and programs that are there, and just see completely the negative is a bit unfair. Yes, they have absolutely bungled a couple of big programs that they should not have bungled. I mean, Jacobs versus was a can't, and until the cage match, which I haven't seen because it's not out on, it's just out on DVD or whatever. I haven't seen it yet. Until that point, I think they completely dropped the ball. But at the same time, you've got Austin Aries completely reinventing himself and succeeding with that, busting his ass and really becoming a great second-time champion with his new heel persona. And we may have seen Danielson not be used to the best of his ability throughout this past year, and being used to give rubs to other people because of his contract status. But at the same time, on the opposite hand, you've got the American Wolves versus Kevin Steen and El Generico feud, which has kicked ass every single time. So, I am in part, cognizant of the fact that Ring of Honor has lost a lot of the internet fan base that expected, or that wanted what Gabe Sapolsky brought to the table. But at the same time, there are good things about this Ring of Honor that we're seeing as well. I don't know if Danielson leaving is death blow that a lot of people seem to think it is. I'm worried if it's Danielson and then Nigel McGuinness leaves and then David Richards is signed and Chris Hero is signed. If 4 or 5 really big names go, then I think that's the big problem. As much as I would have loved Danielson to stick around, there's going to be there has to be someone who's going to be stepping up to fill that gap. And it's a huge gap to fill, but We just have to wait and see if it is filled at all. So.
And speaking of Jerome's strong opinions, we really haven't heard any of those this podcast yet. So, Jerome, I want to hear your thoughts on Danielson.
First thing that I think should almost be required when talking about Bryan Danielson signing with WWE is to just congratulate him for getting this deal with WWE. I think that regardless of what happens, if he flames out in 6 months to a year, or if he becomes the WWE champion, I think that the most important thing is that he is going to WWE, and he should be congratulated for doing so. And I think that any fan who considers him a sellout or doesn't approve of what he's doing, I just don't see the logic in that. I think that Bryan Danielson is making the best move for himself and for his family and in whatever he chooses to do. I can't applaud him enough for doing what he's done on the indies, because let's face it, he's done everything that you could possibly do in independent wrestling. He's been the PWG champion. He's been in Ring of Honor for the last 7 years. He got to wrestle Johnny Saint. He's wrestled in Japan for Pro Wrestling Noah. There's nothing else for him to accomplish, I guess, except wrestle in Dragon Gate USA, and he's going to do that on September the 6th. So I just want to make that clear, that Bryan Danielson, none of the anger that I feel towards Ring of Honor or the WWE is directed in any way at Bryan Danielson, because I just think he is what he says he is. He's probably one of the best in the world, and I wish him nothing but success in WWE. Now on to Ring of Honor and WWE. I just think that it's remarkably short-sighted of Ring of Honor for them to sign Ric Flair and give him all that money, and to completely ignore what Bryan Danielson and Nigel McGuinness have done for Ring of Honor. And this is a point that Ari brought up in his column. I just think is absolutely ridiculous. And I think that Ric Flair is somebody who brought some people to Ring of Honor shows, but he did not make enough of a difference, in my view, for anyone to actually think that Ric Flair was relevant for Ring of Honor, because Bryan Danielson and Nigel McGuinness have given their blood, they've given their bodies, they've just given everything that they have had for the fans in Ring of Honor. And Bryan Danielson, this goes all the way back to the first show when there were, 300 people, 400 people in the Murphy Rec Center in Philadelphia. So these two guys who have given their blood, sweat, and tears were essentially, I guess the word isn't that they weren't re-signed, but they chose not to re-sign because it wasn't in their best financial interest to do so. And all this money is just simply given to a guy who, while he is a legend and he is one of the greatest of all time, I will never dispute that, Ric Flair is not wrestling in Ring of Honor. I just don't see why he deserves all that money. So I think it's remarkably short-sighted for Ring of Honor to do on that level. And the other thing is that, Ring of Honor has put this emphasis on the TV show, and now it's all about the television show and getting the casual fan. Well, you know what? Gabe Sapolsky made a great point about being a casual fan, because he said that he is a casual fan of the NFL, in that he will watch the NFL on Sundays, but he will not buy NFL apparel, he will not buy the DVDs, he just likes to sit down and watch the NFL. The deal with professional wrestling, if you are a casual fan, is you are going to watch Raw, ECW, SmackDown, and maybe Impact and Superstars. You are not going to go buy pay-per-views. You are not going to buy Ring of Honor DVDs. You are not going to buy Pro Wrestling Guerrilla DVDs. You're not probably even going to go on ProWrestlingPonderings.com or 411mania.com. It's just that simple. The casual fan is someone who just wants to sit in front of their TV and enjoy wrestling for what it is and not really invest their money in the product. So I think for Ring of Honor to invest with more in the TV show than the DVDs is a huge mistake, regardless of how far sales have fallen. And the other thing about Ring of Honor's TV show is that they decided, in their infinite wisdom, to move the television show to Monday nights and make this grand scheme of saying that wrestling is back on Monday nights. Now, regardless of what I think about Raw, and Raw has sucked an enormous dick this year, I think that anyone with a brain can realize that Raw is just not doing very well. It has had some good moments, it's had good matches, but overall it hasn't been very good. But Monday Night Raw has a 15-year legacy of great angles, great programs. The biggest stars in professional wrestling wrestle for the WWE on Raw, period. And to just simply come out and say wrestling is now back on Monday nights, I think is an insult, and I think it was stupid for Ring of Honor to make that claim and to raise the ire of the WWE. I just don't see the point in doing that, and I think the fact that they have now done that, I think it has already hurt them significantly. So regardless of how many extra people can now watch on Monday nights, the fact that they've lost Bryan Danielson essentially neutralizes that. Now for the WWE, Bryan Danielson is a guy who's been ready for the WWE probably since 2002. This is a guy who's one of the best in the world, and he's actually gotten better in the last 6 or 7 years. Bryan Danielson has been ready, and I don't appreciate the fact that the only reason that it appears that Bryan Danielson is being signed is because Ring of Honor is now on Monday nights, and WWE wants to stick it to Ring of Honor. Whether that's actually true or not is anyone's guess. But the fact that WWE just signs Bryan Danielson out of the blue now, or that Danielson agrees to go after this deal on Monday nights, I just think that's ridiculous too, because Ring of Honor is not a threat to the WWE in any way, shape, or form. So I think the Ring of Honor and WWE have both shown their maturity level in this whole little war, whatever you want to call it, going on. But like I said, I want to end this on a positive note. A big congratulations to Bryan Danielson. Pro Wrestling Ponderings throughout the next month is going to have a lot on him. We're going to be talking about his Noah days, his PWG days, obviously his Ring of Honor days. We're going to be having a lot of stuff coming up this next month. Going to be very positive, and let's really just try to enjoy the next month. There's going to be a lot. I'm going to have a lot more to say about Ring of Honor, but I'm really going to keep most of the anger till afterwards. But I know September 19th, it'll be my last chance to see Bryan Danielson, and I will get to see him 3 times in the month of September. I'm very excited for it. Congratulations, Bryan. Hope everything works out.
You know, it's funny that you say something about, I have nothing bad to say about WWE whatsoever, and I think you say showing their maturity is sort of interesting, because the way I see it, it's like Ring of Honor says, hey, WWE, look at us, and they're waving their hands there, and WWE says, all right, we will look at you. And they come in and they see all this awesome talent, and WWE says, you know, people have been saying for a while, we need to bring in new talented guys, and oh, hey, look, there's this whole fresh batch of new talented guys that they got us interested in, so they just start snatching them up one by one. It's bad for Ring of Honor and everything else, but I think Ring of Honor brought it all on themselves, and I can't blame WWE for going to Ring of Honor, which is, you know, the top independent company for talent, and poaching them. I can't blame them at all for doing that.
Oh, no, me neither. And if geez, Jerome just unleashed a salvo of tons of stuff to talk about. I agree with a lot of what he says, and in fact, the reason I wrote my column, it's the first time I've written my column in a while, is it came out of being very angry, and not being very angry at WWE or Bryan Danielson and the leads, but being livid at Ring of Honor for sort of just looking in hindsight at seeing, you know, just how they've treated guys like Danielson and McGuinness. And now, no, I don't know that they didn't try their hardest to re-sign Danielson and McGuinness to get them the contracts, but I do know that they didn't have contracts at the time, and that left the door open for WWE to poach them, as was just said. And, you know, a lot of it is, I think, you know, a lot of the financial problems, because, you know, if you don't realize now, after reports from guys like Dave Meltzer and others, that they are having financial problems left and right, then you're being very naive and very foolish. I think a lot of that is the money they spent early this year, first of all, upgrading equipment, and then second of all, you know, bringing in Ric Flair for these appearance contracts. And I actually cut something out of the column, and I'd like to read it out loud if I could. A little bit of a.
I got to go 10 minutes, so go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, this won't take too long. It's just my thoughts on Flair and the heart, very succinctly. What turned out to be the largest monetary error for Ring of Honor was their signing of Ric Flair to a multi-appearance contract. Initially, I wrote that this was a positive move for ROH in order to up their visibility and bring in someone who was legendary in the business in order to help them to promote the product. What I couldn't foresee was that Flair's version of being professional and doing business would entail putting himself and his past over 95% of the time and filling up his pockets with Kerry Sokin's money, emptily putting over the product he was currently spending time in just visiting as the Monopoly board space says. Meanwhile, he was collecting upwards of $15,000 every time he passed a bell. You know what, though? I don't have to blame Flair. He wasn't the one who gave his money away. Someone wanted to bring him on board for the price he wanted. Hey, that's capitalism in a nutshell. Carrie Silkin should have understood the saying buyer beware when he signed Flair, and then got burned by him and his desire to return to WWE, which resulted in the debacle in New York this past year. And you know what? A lot of what happened with Flair and the money they spent, they should have spent it on McGuinness. They should have spent it on Danielson. They should have spent it on their talent. And now they've left themselves in a very vulnerable position. And I'm just very angry that they didn't protect their business interests. And you know, you guys said that Danielson's done all he can. Jerry Lawler did all he could in Memphis, you know, when he won the title, but he was a 35-time champion in Memphis and USWA. I mean, you know, it doesn't matter if Danielson wants to go, he's going to go. But ROH should have tried to do everything in their power way back when in order to make sure they locked up Danielson and even McGuinness, because it's just prudent business to block the guys that you are counting on to bring the money in. And these guys are money guys. These guys are the top guys in Ring of Honor. And it's just the right business decision. I mean, did they not learn from the mistakes Dave Spolsky did of ECW? When ECW went on TNN, one of the first things WWE did was steal their top acts. They stole Taz, they stole Team 3, Dudley Boys, who became Team 3D later on. Mike Awesome went to WCW, and it just wasn't the same. Their roster was lacking depth. And right now, Danielson is a huge hit. They still have guys like Aries and Black and McGuinness, but it is starting to show that they have roster depth problems, and they're going to need to get these guys ready to make the fans really appreciate them, the love of guys like CM Punk, Samoa Joe, and what they meant for Ring of Honor. Because if they can't do that, then Ring of Honor is definitely in trouble.
Well, I think that
I'm definitely angry with that.
the one thing that also needs to be mentioned is that, you know, you look at it in less than 3 months, they've lost 2 main eventers. They lost Jimmy Jacobs in June, and now they're about to lose Bryan Danielson. So it's not just, obviously, you know, they still have the other guys, but, you know, they've lost 2 main event guys in 3 months, and that's very, very difficult to try and make up for. And you've got Bryan Danielson, who's one of the best wrestlers, and you've got Jimmy Jacobs, the guy who's probably one of the best promos in Ring of Honor.
Yeah, and I think, I do completely agree with Ari that Ring of Honor should have at least tried to keep him back, and I couldn't agree more with that. I think they really should have tried their hardest, and you're completely right about them using the money that they used for Flair to keep their bigger guys under contract. But knowing what I know about Danielson from, you know, listening or reading interviews and meeting him in person at King of Trios, I really don't think this guy is about money whatsoever. I think WWE is just another challenge and another kind of stepping stone in his life, and that's more than the reason why enough. I mean, obviously, you know, Ted DiBiase did not just say everybody has a price as a catchphrase. It's true, and I'm sure there was if they threw enough money at Danielson, he probably would have signed. But I mean, even like going to King of Trios, like, you know, I met him. I got an autograph and a picture. Not once did he try to peddle his T-shirt at me, which plenty of other guys tried to do. And, you know, there's one woman who comes up and is like, "Oh, I buy all the Bryan Danielson T-shirts. Is this the only one you have?" And he's like, "Nah, this is the only one. Like, sorry." Like, you know, he just kind of set it up, just whatever. And even I remembered an old interview, like, they were asking if he was going to have any merchandise, and he was like, "You know, I really don't see the reason to bring out a wrestling T-shirt. You know, people should be doing other things, spending their money on, you know, donating to charities or doing whatever, not buying another wrestling T-shirt. Who needs another wrestling T-shirt?" So I really don't think he's the kind of guy who's about all the money.
Absolutely, and as I wrote in my column also, I would never begrudge Bryan Danielson for what he's doing. I think he's making the absolute right decision for himself. He's a challenging, goal-oriented person, and you can tell that from reading and listening to previous interviews. And, you know, I kind of feel, I totally relate to what he's going through, and sort of the need to keep yourself fresh and keep yourself, you know, going, and just feel that you're actually moving instead of running on a treadmill, you know. But let's not be naive. Money is a huge motivating factor for a lot of wrestlers and a lot of people in the independent scene. My friend Chris, about a year and a half ago, got to talk to Nigel McGuinness, you know, not backstage, but sort of like off to the side near the merchandise booth. And he was, you know, he was complimenting Nigel McGuinness doing a great job, and Nigel's response was, "Yeah, thanks. Hey, tell that to Vince McMahon." And, you know, because the big money is in WWE, and if you've got the WWE giving you a lot of cash and an opportunity, it's not a guarantee, but it's an opportunity, then it's very tempting, and a lot of independent wrestlers will take that opportunity, and maybe not the first time, maybe the second time. So I don't blame Danielson. At least I agree with him. I just wish we knew, or that Ring of Honor would have made more public, or just made sure that the talent is more secure. I mean, for God's sakes, don't be naive about this business. Try to protect your interests. But as you said, and I agree, and I wrote in my column, that Bryan was going to leave. He was gone. If he was going to go, he was going to go. So I wish him the very best of luck. I'm very excited for his opportunities. I know you guys began the show by saying he might be going to FCW, but we really don't know that. Maybe he'll go directly into one of the three major brands and really surprise us. Maybe not. But I'm sure as hell interested in seeing what will happen to him. It's a news story. It's a newsworthy story, and I just know that things in you look at CM Punk and how he started W, and now he is the top heel on SmackDown. He's about to get the SmackDown put on him by Undertaker, obviously, but it's a huge, in 3 years, a huge road. He's the success story right now, and I think obviously you got guys like Colt Cabana who are on the opposite end, and a guy like Evan Sedalis or Evan Thorne, that side out, who's in the middle. I'd like to see where Danielson ends up. I think it's an interesting story.
What are the odds that he gets brought in to team with Jimmy Wang Yang as the Young American Dragons?
That'd be great. I mean, again, he's going into the whole new world, and while he was the best wrestler in the world on the independent scene, he's going to try to adjust and adapt, which I think he's ready to do. I think his style it can be very adaptable to the entertainment company. And if they want him to do comedy, he's proven multiple times that he can do comedy, both in Ring of Honor and PWG. Danielson's sense of humor and comic timing is sorely underappreciated. And this guy, if they want him to do comedy, I'm sure he will be the best if that's what they want him to do. I just want him to get the opportunity that he deserves, that chance. Give him a fair chance. Like, I know CM Punk had Paul Heyman sticking up for him, but hopefully Shawn Michaels or Regal, someone will stick up for Danielson and say, hey, we signed this guy and he's got something that we can use. And if he can prove that he's a valuable guy to the company, then that's the start.
How about CM Punk standing up for him?
Maybe, but you know what? I don't know how much pull CM Punk has, because if he had the kind of pull that he should have, then Colt Cabana, Scotty Goldman wouldn't have been fired or released or future endeavored. And he would have said to them, hey, from what I read in an interview, that they actually did want to suggest the Punk Cabana team, but Punk by that point had risen too far up the ladder, and they thought it wouldn't be seen as appropriate for a new guy like Cabana to be teaming with to CM Punk. Like, who is this guy? And Cabana's statement was, well, they would have seen that Punk, accepted me, and that would have helped me get accepted with the crowd immediately. But that didn't happen. Cabana was released, and obviously we can talk about that one all day long. So yeah, I mean, whether he's the next CM Punk or the next Colt Cabana.
I have a question for both of you. For Danielson's last match in New York, I mean, it's hard, especially because it is a Ring of Honor World Title match as we speak of this. But you kind of mentioned that the thought back then was Paul London winning the title, going out, and then vacating the belt. Do you think there's a chance of doing that with Danielson? Because we've seen in the past Ring of Honor has guys on the way out doing the job, such as Paul London, and I don't remember if James Gibson won or lost his last match, but I know Samoa Joe and Colt Cabana won their matches on the way out, and I think
he lost his last match to Roger Strong.
That's what I thought. Okay, so I think it would almost be criminal if guys like Colt Cabana and Samoa Joe won their last match and Danielson didn't. But I also would hate the idea of Bryan Danielson winning the belt for the second time just to leave, and even worse, winning the title and just handing it to somebody like Tyler Black to get off Austin Aries. I would absolutely hate that, so I don't know what direction they go in.
That's not going to happen. He's not going to win the belt. And I will go on record as saying this. I don't think he's going to win the belt. I think Danielson probably beats, I think he's facing Hero first. If he beats Hero, he probably lets Richards go over him as sort of passing the torch. And then Aries gets a win on Danielson through some sort of cheating tactics. Now, I think Aries and Tyler Black are on the collision course for Final Battle in 2009.
Speaking of, Jerome, actually, I want you to answer the question first, then I'll make a point.
I think it's going to be Austin Aries winning, but if they do something with the cheating tactic, I don't want to be in the crowd. I'll say that much, because I think it's going to be ugly. I think it has to be clean as a whistle for that to happen. I think to have Bryan Danielson lose his last match in Ring of Honor through any sort of chicanery is stupid.
No, and I don't think they'll do that. But my point I was going to make is, Ari mentioned that Chris Hero is taking on Bryan Danielson. Speaking of people who WWE is considering poaching, I would not be surprised if Hero was one of them. You want to talk about being naive and Hero saying, "Oh, I'm always adapting my look and my style, yada yada." Yeah, right. I mean, I look at him and I see the way he's improved himself and sort of changed his look to be in the short tights and everything. Dude looks like he is getting ready for WWE to take a look at him and jump to their program with no issues whatsoever. He's not wearing the goofy Superman outfit anymore. He's not doing the goofy flips and rolls that don't really get over. His look looks like more of a WWE superstar and a professional wrestler than ever has before, and I think that's what he's going for, and I would not be surprised if he was poached by WWE next.
How about Nigel McGuinness getting rid of his spiked hair and going with a more bald look?
There you go, looking exactly like Daniel Craig, as I like to call him.
And how about Roderick Strong? He's a little bit leaner now than he used to be. Austin Aries has changed his look completely. He's more of a sports entertainer now, so...
Hey, I've lost 10 pounds. I may be going to WWE next. You never know.
All right, Ari can replace Todd Grisham on SmackDown.
Claudio Castagnoli, I also think, could be picked up. I mean, I know he was there before and they had issues with his green card or whatever the story is, but I think, him not being picked up would be a foolish maneuver as well.
For sure. All right.
Who gets poached. And, that's the problem with it, is that this is a big rumor, and, I'm not like I said, don't be naive. It could be anyone, but at this point, we don't know. So until the other shoe drops, we can speculate all we want. Who knows? But if it does happen, it is going to be bad for them.
Yes, indeed. And let's go over some of the dates that Bryan Danielson will be having in the month of September very briefly. And then I want to ask a non-wrestling question that will end this podcast on a positive note, since I think we need a little positivity in the room. On September the 5th, he will be at AEW wrestling Silas Young, and I will be there for that. So that is obviously something I'm looking forward to. The next day, he will be wrestling Naruki Doi at Dragon Gate USA. Obviously, it's going to be a big deal there. Gabe's last opportunity to book Bryan Danielson, so at least Gabe gets that chance. September 10th and 11th in Philadelphia for the HDNet tapings. I don't believe no matches for Bryan Danielson have been announced for that, correct?
Right.
Then on September the 18th, it will be in Dayton, Ohio. Bryan Danielson will be wrestling Chris Hero.
Yeah, I guess they wanted him to face a guy from the old Les Thatcher territory before leaving.
That's the IWA Mid-South connection, because Hero is huge in Dayton and the Ohio area for the IWA Mid-South.
And then September 19th, my last opportunity to see Bryan Danielson live. He will be wrestling Tyler Black. I was going to complain about this because they've wrestled so much, but I guess this is kind of the period at the end of the sentence, so I guess it's kind of a good thing now that they are getting a chance to meet one-on-one. And obviously, this card has taken on a whole new sense of magnitude with it being Bryan Danielson's last match in Chicago. Of course, September the 25th in Boston. Finally, he gets a one-on-one match with Davey Richards. They've met in FIP and PWG, but never in Ring of Honor in a singles match. So obviously, this is going to be a match where neither had better hold anything back. And then September 26th, Ari will be there. Kevin Ford will be there. Jason Sterlacki will be there. You guys will all get to see Bryan Danielson's last match. You will get to see the Ladder War. And you will get to see Eddie Kingston and Chris Hero. And, of course, Bret Hart will be signing autographs So if you are in the area of any of these cities or towns or matches, this is your last chance to see Bryan Danielson on the independent scene, folks. There is no better opportunity than right now to say goodbye to Bryan Danielson and wish him the best of luck in his future endeavors. Anything else, guys, about Bryan Danielson, or are you guys exhausted?
Well, I'd just like to say that, again, looking at some of the Ring of Honor cards in September, I mean, there are some huge cards there, and I think maybe, hopefully, some things are starting to get through that maybe they should make all these cards must-buy shows, must-attend shows, and Danielson's last matches, his farewell tour, if you will, I think really helps put that extra emphasis on them, and I think, like I said in the column, ironically could help them out more than hurt them in the short term. Like I said before, I just want to repeat that I wholeheartedly, unequivocally approve of Bryan Danielson doing what he's doing. I have no ill will towards him whatsoever. In fact, I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens on this journey, and hopefully he will, help WWE improve in some small manner, whether it's for entertainment or for wrestling. And I think he deserves that chance. I think he's worked hard the last decade, and just watching, he's growing up through his first appearances in Ring of Honor in 2002, and we really have seen his development. He's come a hell of a long way. And I guess the other last thing is, if you look at that first show, that first Ring of Honor show, you just see now the main event come the end of September. No one in that first main event will currently be wrestling for them, and in fact, there are very few people who are on that first card who are still wrestling for Ring of Honor. It would just be Jay Briscoe, Prince Nana, Mark Briscoe, who didn't wrestle on that show. Maybe people neglecting, but it is sort of the end of a certain era for Ring of Honor, and a certain connection to their past. It's a bittersweet moment for Ring of Honor fans.
All right, now usually Kevin and I like to discuss some of the wrestling DVDs that we watch and enjoy, but Kevin and I are kind of on divergent paths right now, because I'm watching AEW and Kevin Ford is on the TPIs. So we're kind of going in opposite directions. But there is something that Kevin and I have both seen this past weekend, and it has absolutely nothing to do with wrestling, but it is something that we both loved so much that we're going to jizz all over it right now. Kevin, I know you saw Inglourious Bastards. Just talk about how much you loved it.
Oh my God, I cannot tell you how much I love this movie. I am a huge Quentin Tarantino movie fan. Pulp Fiction is undoubtedly my favorite movie of all time. I believe Inglourious Bastards is now a very close number 2, and when I was over, I remember thinking to myself, is this my new favorite movie of all time? Everything about it was good. The acting was great. The writing was brilliant. It was captivating. Everything looked awesome. Lots of brand new actors who really pulled their weight. I think the guy who played Hans in the movie deserves the best supporting actor award, no doubt. It was I can't say enough good things about it. It was haunting. It was mesmerizing. There was parts of it where I just had this big grin on my face because I couldn't believe what awesomeness I was witnessing. Especially I don't want to give any spoilers away, but the very last big scene in that movie where everything, all the shit goes down, you can say, I thought was just unbelievable, and a lot of the metaphors that are going into it and everything like that, and just the great storytelling. Tarantino does it best. I think Tarantino movies are just unbelievable, and I just encourage everyone to go see this movie. My friend has seen this movie 3 times in 4 days, people, and he's crazy, but it's so good. It is freaking believable. I've seen District 9, I've seen Star Trek, I've seen Up, I've seen pretty much all the big movies of the summer. This is the one you must absolutely see. It is incredible. Incredible.
Ari, have you seen Inglourious Bastards yet?
No, part 9. 9. Yes.
Dude, Ari, you gotta go see it. Fucking Nazis get killed all the time. You gotta go represent.
That should make me happy. I'm not much of a movies guy. In the theaters, I actually see a lot of movies through DVD. So I'm sure I will catch it at some point, but I'm probably not going to go see it in the theater. But I like Tarantino. Reservoir Dogs, great fucking movie. And obviously I really like the Kill Bill movies. It's I'm sure it's a great movie. I will take the recommendations to heart. Although you're talking to the guy who, Zach and Miri is still in the shrink wrap, and I bought that shit like 4 months ago. So
that's a fail right there.
I might see Inglourious Bastards by 2011.
I have to say, I used to be the movie guy at the Cool Kids table, so I feel a little obligation to put this movie over. 4.5 out of 5 stars. This is just one of the best movies of the year. The acting is great. And Kevin mentioned the ending scene. The opening scene of Inglourious Bastards is probably one of my favorite of all time. Just the tension involved and the acting involved was spectacular. Brad Pitt was even good in this movie, so that's almost reason enough to go see it. But if you haven't seen many movies this year, then you want to go out and see this. It has its violent moments, to be certain, but they're in short bursts, and the movie is just absolutely one of the best things you will see this year. There's been a lot of crap, no doubt, but definitely go out and see Inglourious Bastards if you have the time and the money, and especially if you chose to go see... If you saw SummerSlam instead of Inglourious Bastards, I think you made a mistake.
Hey, can I make a quick TV/DVD recommendation?
Go ahead. We've talked movies, so it's only fair that you get to make a recommendation.
Cool. I'm really into Leverage I think on TNT, and the first season DVD came out a couple weeks back, and I wholeheartedly recommend it to anyone. It is one hell of a fun show. It is smart. It's funny. Well filmed. Well shot. It's basically the A-Team meets Ocean's 11 through 13, where a couple of con artists are brought together, and they sort of learn that helping others is sort of their calling, the right way they go about it, and it's just a great DVD set, and the first season is awesome because it's sort of like they filmed 13 episodes to sort of connect to each other as far as the overall plot lines within the characters. So you get to the cliffhanger at the end, and you don't know whether or not they're going to get back together as a team. It just works wonders. The second season has been very good, not as good as the first season. So if you're going to start anywhere, start with season 1 on DVD. Probably pick it up for a good price at your local retailer or at Amazon.com. So Leverage, go check it out.
All right.
And speaking of TV shows on DVD, I've been delving into Dollhouse Season 1, Joss Whedon's new television show. And just like everything else Joss Whedon has done, it is really, really awesome. So if you love Joss Whedon, and who the hell doesn't, make sure you check out Dollhouse Season 1.
I don't know, Kevin. I think two heterosexual males discussing the greatness of Buffy and Angel is going to kind of send alarm bells throughout the wrestling or the podcasting world.
Man, whatever. I don't care if people say Buffy, Angel, Firefly, Serenity, Dollhouse, all that shit is great.
Yep, agreed.
You're making the people at the 411 Mania movies and TV zone very happy right now because they're crazy into that shit.
I am, and to plug things on 4 Mania that are not my own stuff. For Inglourious Bastards, the review there is very, very good. It's very spoilerific though, so if you haven't seen the movie, don't read it. And there's also something that someone posted about all of Quentin Tarantino's projects that are not any of the movies he directed. No Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Jackie Brown, either Kill Bills or Grindhouse are mentioned, but stuff like 4 Rooms, From Dusk Till Dawn, and some other stuff on there is written up. And I learned a lot about Tarantino that I didn't know, so I definitely would like to give that a shout out as well at 411mania.com in their movies section.
All right, so let's put the bow on top of this present. Ari, why don't you plug your stuff first?
So now we're going back to Vince McMahon's birthday, aren't we?
No.
84.
It was like an indie wrestling crowd chant tonight.
Yeah.
Ari really is drunk. He really is.
No, well, it might be the residual from being at my friend's wedding last night. Maybe. I had one whole Coors Light. CM Punk will be mad at me. I'm sorry. Dude, just check out Column of Honor. My new special edition is on Danielson, the desire for success and the damage done to Ring of Honor. by WWE and self-inflicted. If you like what you heard this past hour, then there's plenty more comments and thoughts about this topic. I have links through 411 for past editions of Column of Honor, and I may be returning this September on a regular basis. Maybe not. We'll see if I'm motivated, how I feel. But yeah, that's what I'm up to at this point.
All right, Kevin, we saw the return of Contemplating Chikara this past Saturday, but why don't you plug your other stuff too?
Sure, yeah. Contemplating Chikara is an article I do every single Saturday. I promise it's every Saturday now. I did take a couple weeks off for some other reasons, personal reasons.
Getting drunk at your brother's wedding?
That was one of them. But now it is back.
I didn't know you had a bris.
Continuing on, yes, Contemplating Chikara is back.
There's a Jewish word for the day.
Yes, there you go. The Hebrew word of the day. Okay. So Contemplating Chikara back. 411mania.com every single Saturday. Go to the wrestling section. You can read it. I also do DVD reviews of all the Chikara shows. I have finished my review of Never Kneel at the Altar of Conformity, but with 411 Mania's retarded DVD review posting schedule, will not be up till middle of September. But until then, you can go read all my other past DVD reviews. I've been reviewing all the Chikara shows since May of 2008, and they are all up there in the archive. Just click on my name. You can read all my past shit. And, of course, make sure to check out everything at ProWrestlingPonderings.com. We got a Twitter, twitter.com/PWPonderings. We got a Gmail account, ProWrestlingPonderings@gmail.com. So email us crap like that. And, of course, there's going to be some changes in the podcasting kind of coming up in the next few weeks or so. So make sure to look out for that. And I think that's all I got to plug. So take it away, Jerome.
I have to plug this past week's podcast with one Brad Garoon and Jake Ziegler. If you have not listened to it yet, you're retarded. It is probably the best free hour of audio that you will find out there. Jake Ziegler's rant on Lance Storm is epic. The discussion is fun. And sometimes we even talk about a little bit of wrestling. So
It turned me into an insomniac.
how did
It's that good.
how did it turn you into an insomniac?
I just thought that's
Thanks for putting us
Your
over.
name of that podcast, Ari, so I apologize to you in person.
Oh, whatever. That's all good, dude.
Definitely check out all of the columns on ProWrestlingPonderings.com. Check out our bios as well. Join our Facebook group. Follow us on Twitter. Do all of the wonderful things that technology allows you to do. And we will be having some announcements about the changes in the podcast within the next few weeks. Next week, I have no idea what's going on because I am awaiting word to see if any Ring of Honor stars, more stars, get signed by WWE, and that will.
Sorry.
I'm waiting for that because next week I don't want to be on the podcast. I want Kevin Ford to take an opportunity to host, but we will see what happens with Ring of Honor and WWE and all of the news.
Are we going to be doing a podcast about PWG Speed of Sound show this weekend?
We probably should get on that, and we'll talk to Matt Winton about that coming up within the next few days. So for Kevin Ford, for Ari Berenstein, we haven't even talked about SummerSlam, but we went an hour. I'm Jerome Cuson. You've been listening to Pro Wrestling Ponderings. Thanks a lot.